Why on earth would anyone want to learn C++ today? I mean, you probably heard about Python. Everyone says it's super easy, it looks like English, and it is. Or JavaScript, that's the one that powers every website on the planet. So why would we willingly choose a language that has curly braces, semicolons, and error messages that sometimes look like they were written by aliens? Here's the thing, C++ is like the gym workout of programming. It's not the easiest, but it's the one that builds the most strength. And once you get that strength, everything else feels lighter. Now let's talk about the games, because if you are here, I'm guessing you've at least thought about building your own. Unreal Engine, one of the most powerful games engines out there, for me the most powerful, is written in C++. And the reason is simple, performance. When you want to build 100 enemies on a screen, explosions everywhere, physics, AI, particles, and you don't want the game to run like a slideshow, C++ is the language that gets it done. But it's not just games. Think about operating systems, robots, self-driving cars, stock trading systems that move millions of dollars in milliseconds. Yep, that's all C++. Basically, whenever speed really matters, C++ is the one driving the car, and sometimes crashing it if you don't handle the memory correctly, but we'll get to that later. Now, here's the secret benefit. Learning C++ makes you a better programmer in general. It teaches you what's really going on inside the machine. You'll understand memory, performance, how your code actually talks to the hardware. And once you know that, picking up any other language, Python, C#, Java, is like switching from lifting heavy weights to lifting a backpack. You will be like, that's it? That's all I have to do? So yes, C++ is tougher. It will challenge you. Sometimes it will make you question your life decisions. But it will also give you the tools to build the games and the applications that push the limits of technology. And honestly, that's pretty awesome. So, bottom line, if you want performance, if you want control, if you want to build games, or if you just want bragging right as the person in the room who actually understands pointers, C++ is where you want to be. And don't worry, by the end of this course, those alien error messages, you'll actually understand them, or at least you'll know how to tame them. Before we continue, like, subscribe, ring the bell, comment about your experience with C++ or any other language, and share the content to support this channel. And if you want dig deeper on how to build a solid career in video games, you need more than just code. Visit William.com, learn more about the Game Creator Accelerator, the mentorship, the methodology, and the strategies, and set a time to chat with me directly. Links in the description. Now let's get started. Alright, before we begin coding, we need to do something every programmer knows too well, setting up the environment. Now, let me warn you, this part can feel a little bit like moving into a new apartment. You got the keys, you are excited, but first you have to figure out where the couch goes, what breaker controls the lights, and why there are 3 mysterious switches that don't seem to do anything. Don't worry, I'll guide you through it. For C++, the most important thing we need is a compiler. This is the magical translator that takes your human-readable code and turns it into a machine instructions your computer can actually run. Without it, your program is just a very detailed diary entry that your computer politely ignores. There are many ways to set up a C++ environment, but to make life simple, in this course we are all going to use the same tool, Visual Studio from Microsoft on Windows. Why Visual Studio? Because it's powerful, it's free, and it comes with everything with it already packaged together. No need to juggle multiple installations or mysterious command line tricks. You just install it and you are ready to start coding. I'll walk you step by step through downloading and installing Visual Studio, selecting the right components, and creating your very first C++ project. By the end of this setup, you'll be looking at your screen thinking, wow, I get a professional-grade coding environment in my machine. And trust me, once you see that first program run successfully, it's going to feel like you just booted up your own Iron Man suit. So grab your laptop, follow along, and let's get your Visual Studio environment ready. After this, we'll jump straight into writing real C++ code. Let's start with the first step. So let's open our browser and look for Visual Studio. Visual Studio Microsoft. Select the one that says Visual Studio IDE and Code Editor for Software. Click on the free download and pick the option that says Download Community. Now that we have our downloaded file, open it. Follow the instructions. Visual Studio Installer. Continue. This window was presented to me because I already have a previous version of Visual Studio installed. Because I don't want to migrate at this point, I'm going to close it. In your case, it's most likely that Visual Studio will present you with a lot of options to install. Together, I will click on Modify. This might be a bit confusing, so let me tell you what are the options that you need to install right now. The first one you need is this one that is named Desktop Development with C++. Be sure that you have it checked. Because you're probably going to use this for Unreal, it's recommended that you pick the option of Game Development with C++. As you can see, Unreal is included in the list. And beyond that, if you want to add an extra element, it could be the Net Desktop Development for different languages and the Net Multi-Platform App Development. Once you select them, click Install while downloading. You can also pick Download All, then Install. I like the Install while downloading. And close. In your case, will appear something like Start or an update, like mine. Visual Studio will download a bunch of stuff. It might take a few minutes depending on your internet speed. So if it feels slow, don't worry, go grab a coffee, stretch your legs, maybe promise your computer some encouragement. When it's done, you have a professional grade coding environment ready to go. Now that we have our install ready, let's close this window and close this one as well. Click on your windows and look for Visual Studio. And select the option that says Visual Studio 2022, or the one corresponding to the one you installed it. When you're prompted with the Visual Studio, to the left you can see my most recent projects where I've been working. Select the option that says Create New Project. And inside Create New Project, I want you to pick the option of Console App that you can see here for the most recent, or you can find on the right. Then click Next. I will name this project Hello World, and you can pick the location here. In my case, I will use this CPP test. Once I finish, click on Create. This presents your project, but first let's open the Explorer. Let's go to C and the address where we save our project. As you can see, here is Hello World. And if you get inside the folder, you can see several types of files. Let's say that I close my project. If you want to reopen the project, you can double-click on the file finishing with SLN, which is a solution file. And here you have your project again. I have to say at this point that it is a coincidence that the name of my project is exactly what it says here. If you name your project some other way, you will still find the Hello World message that it is presented here using code in C++. To summarize rapidly what this code does is just presenting a message of Hello World and then moving to the next line. To run your project, you just have to click here on this green play button. And here is your code. It says Hello World and a lot of information related to your project. And at the end, it says press any key to close the window. Also, check out that we have an empty space here. Let's click any key, and the empty space that you find was because this N. If I repeat the N, let's say twice, save, and run the project, then you will see two more spaces. Even though we're going to get into the details of every line of code in the future, I would love to give you an introduction of what is happening here. The first thing is related to the comments. The comments are lines of code that won't be considered for the compiler. So you can write whatever you want, the compiler is going to ignore it. These comments are for you, for the developer, to have an orientation, a quick orientation of what are you coding, of what are you creating. Overall, when you have to communicate with new coders, with other developers, these comments are very important. Other option is because you want to make these comments for the future, because in the future you might not remember why you did these lines of code, and your comments will help you very much. You can make a comment line by line using 2 slashes and then adding the comment. Or you can also use multiple lines with a slash with an asterisk and closing with an asterisk and a slash at the end. And here you can write anything you want, but it has to be inside this too. Let's remove this and start explaining the entire code. This line tells C++ that we want to use the input and output tools, the iostream. Think of it like saying, hey, C++, I need some basic plumbing to talk to the screen. I need to talk to the screen and I wish to use the screen to talk inside the code. Then we have the integer main. This is where every C++ program starts. It is the main function. The main function is like the front door of your program. When you run your program, the computer knocks here first. You can have other functions afterwards, but the first function that this program will run will be always the main function. After the definition of a function, we have the curly braces. The curly braces mark the beginning and end of a function. Everything inside them is what the program will actually do. And you, of course, can have multiple lines of code. At this moment, we have just one. But don't worry, this is going to get a bit bigger. Then we have the line of code where the magic happens. cout stands for character output, and it lets us send text to the screen. This symbol are like arrows that push our message out. Inside these quotes, we have the message that will be presented. And as I mentioned previously, these two characters, the backslash and end, represents that when you will find it, you will jump a line. And the std is a big toolbox that comes with C++. It is called the standard namespace. Inside that toolbox, you will find all the useful stuff that the language gives us for free. Things like input, output, strings, containers, and a lot more. Now I recommend you to add a new standard cout or call outside. So let's try something like std cout I am Tony and I want another jump line. And you always have to finish your line sentences with a semicolon. Let's save and run. Now I have the hello world, 3 line jumps, then I am Tony and another line jump. Finally, I want to make a note related to this function. As you can see, the beginning of this function is defined as an integer. So what it means is that this main function should return at the end an integer. In the previous versions of C++, you need to add at the end a return and say something like 0. But here's the deal. In the modern C++, since the C++11 standard, if your main function finishes and you didn't put a return statement, the compiler automatically assumes return 0. Now, just to prove that this is working, let's save, run, and you see the same result. That's why today, when you see an integer main and you don't have any return, the compiler assumes a return 0. In this lesson, you get your tools ready, you run your very first C++ program, and now you are officially on your way to mastering one of the most powerful programming languages out there. Hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss the next steps. I'll be posting new lessons every single week until this entire C++ course is complete. Also, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me why you decided to learn C++. Your story might inspire someone else to keep going. And if you know a friend who's been talking about making games or learning programming, go ahead and share this video with them. Finally, if you're serious about building your career as a game developer or designer, check out woolen.com to learn more about the Game Creator Accelerator, my mentorship program designed to help you not only learn, but also create and share your work so you can stand out in the industry. Until next time, keep creating, keep sharing, and most importantly, keep dreaming big. I'll see you soon, my fellow creators.